Hello friends, welcome you in this video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we are going to talk about the object class in Java. So as we know that object class in Java is a root class for all the classes in Java. All classes descendant from the object directly or indirectly. Object class is implicitly extended by a class if it is not extending any other class. In case a class is extending any other class, then also it extends object class as a multi-level hierarchy inheritance, right? Meaning is that here if your class extends like a person class, then ultimately person extends object class in the inheritance hierarchy. So here basically when you create a class and your class doesn't extend any class, then implicitly basically what happens, your class extends basically object class, right? So since it is implicitly extended by a class, so since it is implicitly extended by object class, so you don't need to write explicitly that your class extending object class, right? So either your class is like this, or if you remove this, both are same thing, right? So in this video tutorial basically we'll see all the methods are available in the object class. So you will have to press Ctrl Shift T and need to search object, right? And object class is basically belongs to the java.lang package. And here once you enter into the object class, if you have attached JDK source code, then you'll get something like this. Now we'll have to press Ctrl O, and here you can see all the methods of object class are listed. Now let's talk about the each and every methods in this class. Now we'll start from a very first method is called get class. So basically the get class method of the object class returns a class object. Here you can see return type is the class object, which has methods which is a method you can use to get the information about the class, right? So here basically return type of this get class is the class itself. And so if you have an object like let's say if you have an employee object, then you can say employee1 dot get class, and this will give you return type as a class. Again, class is a class in java.lang package, and here this basically class provides you a handful of method like if you want to know what is the qualified name of the class, then you have a method is called get simple name. Let's say if you want to get information about the its super classes, right, then get super class method. You have like get if you want to know interfaces, which are the interfaces implemented by your classes, then all those APIs are available in the class, right? So class is the also class in java.lang package. And usually when you work on the reflection API, then you would want to work on this kind of API. So that's about the Java this get class methods. And here you can see this is a native APIs, and this is final as well. Native means this is implemented in some other language like C. And here this method is API, so you cannot override it. These things you will have to keep in mind. Now next methods we are going to talk about, that is called, again you will have to press Ctrl O. Then next method in this list you have a like hash code and equals method, right? So the equals method compares two objects for equality and returns true if they are equal, right? And next we have a hash code, right? The value returned by hash code is the object's hash code, which is the object's memory address basically. If you override the equals method, you must also override the hash code method as per the equals and hash code contract, right? Now let's say I have a class, it's called employee, and I have created two objects, right? So here I have created two objects, Now I want to check whether these two objects is equal or not, right? Then how we can compare? So if I do employee 1 dot equals, if I call equals and I do basically employee 2, and here you can observe I have created two objects of employee and both objects are holding the same state, right? So logically these two objects are same, right? And this method should return true for us. But if I run this application, then you will see this basically comparison returns the false. This is saying that these two objects are not same, right? So this is not expected output, right? We want this logical comparison between these two objects, right? Then why this is happening? Because when you do employee 1 dot equals, then object class method is getting called, right? As per the polymorphism, first of all, runtime, Java runtime looks into this method in your class, but in your class equals method is not available. So call basically leads to the super class, and here you can see implementation of equals method is checking the basically double equals means that is checking both the objects, right? So when I say both the objects means here you have a two objects, right? So this is the first object and this is the second object, right? So here basically these two objects, basically when you call equals method on second object, right, then these two objects basically checking whether both objects are basically pointing to the same memory location or not. So that's the basically check is happening within the equals method, right? So if what you can do, if you do like employee 2 equals to employee 1, then in that case both objects will point to the same memory location. In that case this comparison will return you true, right? After doing this, this is returning true, but this we don't want this, right? We want the logical comparison. So what you can do, you can compare, right, equals and hash code method in your employee class, and then your runtime behavior will call the overridden method which is in your employee class, and then logical comparison will happen. So what I'll do, so you don't need to really override equals and hash code method. You don't need to write manually those codes, right? So what you have to do, right click in your class and go to the source, and here you have option to generate equals and hash code, and select all the fields and click on OK. Now we have overridden equals and hash code method. So if you have remember what I said, if you override the equals, then you will have to override the hash code method as well. That's the as per the equals and hash code contract. And now after doing so, let's run this application. I will see this comparison now returns the true. Now your equals method which is available in your basically employee class is getting called, and here basically this method basically compares these two objects basically logically equals or not, means these two objects holds the same state or not. If these two objects holds the same object, then this comparison is going to return you true. So that's all about equals and hash code methods. Now next what we are going to check, so press Ctrl O, and next method we have something is called clone. So clone is basically if you want to create a copy of an existing object, and that's the clone basically. So if a class or one of its super classes implements the clonable interface, you can use the clone method of the object class to create a copy from an existing objects, right? To create a clone, you write basically call the clone method on any existing object, right? So that already I have covered in the previous video tutorial, previous series of video tutorial. There we had seen how basically perform a shallow and deep kind of cloning. So you can refer that video tutorial. Now two-string method, right? That's very important. So so what is the significance of two-string method in object class? So let's try to understand through an example. So when you want to return a string representation of an object, then basically you override the toString method. So let me show you. So in client program, what I'll do, I'll try to print I'll try to print a state of employee 1. So let's see how it is getting printed. If I run this application, then here you can see how state of object is getting printed, and obviously this is not what we were expecting, right? So this is printing the qualified name of a class, @ sign, and hexa equivalent of your hash code. So why this is happening? Because when you try to print an state of object, so basically call leads to the super class, and that's the next call to the toString method in the super class. And if you look into the implementation of super class, then basically that gets the first of a class name, which basically gives the entire qualified name of a class, and then plus operator concatenating @ sign, and after that getting the hash code of your existing object, and that converts into the hexadecimal. And that's the reason, because of this line of code, we are getting output something like this. If you want basically your state of objects to be printed in the nice format or readable format, then what you have to do, you have to override the toString method in your own class. So I go to here, and again I'll take help of the Eclipse. Right click over here, go to the source, and here you have option generate toString method. Select all the fields, and so now we have overridden toString method in our own class. So as per the polymorphisms, toString method of my class will be called, and a state of object will be printed into the nice format. Now if I run, then here you can see now state of objects is getting printed in the nice format. This is the class, and this is the all attributes, and its value is separated with the equal sign, and all key value pairs is separated with the comma sign. Now if you want to change the implementation of this representation, of course you can change, if you can print in the different format as well, but this is the Eclipse provided default implementation, right? Now what else in the next, what are the methods, next methods? So after toString we have something is called notify, right? Notify and notify all methods. So when we talk about the notify method basically wakes up a single thread waiting on the object's monitor. So basically when you implement a kind of inter-thread communication process, then basically we use notify all, and wait method, right? So again we have, so in notify only single method wakes up and that try to acquire the lock, objects lock. Notify all the methods basically wakes up and try to acquire, all the threads will fight for the lock. So that's the difference between notify and notify all. We have a 3 overloaded method of wait. So wait method basically causes the currently executing thread to wait, right? Again you have a 3 overloaded version of wait method, right? So basically now wait method, which basically there you can specify the timeout in long, and third wait method you can specify timeout in long as well as nanoseconds or something like that, right? So if you use this overloaded method, that causes the current thread to wait until either another thread invokes the notify or notify method for this object, or a specified amount of time has elapsed, then object will come to the ready to run state or something like that. And one thing you will have to keep in mind, if you call wait and notify, then you will have to call in the synchronized context, either in the synchronized method or synchronized block, else this will throw runtime exception. And finally you will have a finalize method. So usually finalize method basically called by the garbage collection on the objects when garbage collection determines that there are no more references to the objects. So basically before garbage collecting any objects, finalize method is getting called, and there you can write the kind of clean up resources kind of code, right? So this method of course you can override in your own methods, and there you can write the cleanup kind of code. So if your object is garbage collected, before that this method will be called, and whatever code you write within that finalize method, that gets executed automatically. But this is not recommended to override basically if you look into the documentation, right? So Java already takes care about those kind of stuff, so you don't need to really override this method. So guys, big thank you for watching this video, and I hope you are clear with all the methods.